Well, what comes about today is what Q predicted, which is that the drops are going to come hard and fast. It is raining. It is April. It is raining new information. And again, as I suggested a few minutes ago when I did the graduation, the Q graduation document, this is important stuff in a big spectrum, but each individual piece adds only to the cumulative amount. So let's go through it. I'm going to go through it, and I am going to skip over where I am not definitive about what it is. You guys will find some other source, and because you graduated, because we've all graduated, most of you are looking this stuff up yourself, digging around. The internet has become a wonderful source for all kinds of information, and there is a wealth of people and different things on Reddit and 8chan and the whole thing around. So anyway, it was not supposed to be revealed. This is 10,000 or 1008. POTUS not under criminal investigation, not yet. So somebody is saying that he's not, and then there's a traitor, and I don't know who the traitor is. Obviously, it would be one of the insiders. A massive intel sweep. Manafort was a plant. See, that's the first time I've known of that, and that's a new development. But what it means is that Mueller was digging for these guys right from the start, and of course, Manafort was only there for a short time. So, did Trump get tipped off? That would make sense. Trace the background, and of course we know that Manafort was under investigation. They've been trying to catch him for some old Ukrainian stuff and a bunch of money that he took, that he kept offshore, and that he did not properly declare himself. I mean, there's a whole bunch of little things, but it had to do with stuff that was before Trump. And so did they plant him to see what they could find out? Yeah, of course they did. And then it says trace background, open source. Carter Page was a plant, and I did a little resume on that process not too long ago, and here's Carter Page, 2012, 2013, working for the FBI folks, the CIA folks in the background. I'm not sure, I can't remember exactly how it's split out, but I think he was working for the FBI, and so suddenly he flipped, right in the middle of him being an informant for the FBI and being a witness for the prosecution of a couple Russians. Suddenly you have to go to the FISA court because you got to get warrants out to find out what he's doing. Well, why do you need to find out what he's doing if he's working for you? And why did you have him volunteer to be a junior guy in the Trump administration, and then encourage him to go to Russia, and then encourage the rest of the stuff, and then build all these other things around it, and say he met with an oil guy that he didn't meet with, and that he was going to get something like 19% of the oil production if he did something for it, when it's all hocus pocus and it doesn't even make sense. I mean, do the math. You're going to pay a junior guy like Carter Page $1 billion or multi-billion to make contact with Trump? Well, make a phone call, right? So why is Mueller going after inside plants? Well, because he planted them. That's why. Because that was the plan all along, was to go after these inside plants. There may be other reasons, but that's an obvious one. And I see people that say, well, Mueller's flipped and all this other crap. I don't believe that. And it neutralized, perhaps, told to pay attention, perhaps, told that he's full of it, perhaps, but not that he's a good guy. Flynn is safe. That's always great to hear. Define witness. Can a witness hold a position of power, influence while ongoing? Well, in Flynn's case, yeah, probably. And they're trying to use Flynn. They're trying to flip him, or they were, to get to Trump. Real or fake, and then it says fake. I mean, sometimes these Socratic questions follow with the obvious answer, right? And you say, well, I think maybe it's, oh, there it is. It's right, it's in the next line. Julian Assange, Seth Rich, the MS-13 guys, they're talking about 2 guys in a kill box. And I think that those are real guys in the kill box, and that's what's her name, Wasserman Schultz, supposedly put those guys to work and then had them bumped off. But and then there are 24 more. Did they all get picked up? There was some indication that they had. No investigation into WikiLeaks receipt of information, no pull down of NSA metadata trace, and the connection to WikiLeaks, no pull down of the NSA metadata period, nothing transferred across the web. See, that was the thing, it was all inside. If it goes across the web, as most of you know, it's got a certain through speed, and that through speed is only so fast. Well, if you take a thumb drive or a hard drive and you plug it in and then you download it, it downloads 5, 10, 20 times faster, and it also shows the clock speed by which it was downloaded. So when you see that, you say, well, it can't be a remote source. It can't be Guccifer. It can't be somebody else like that that's taking this stuff. It's an insider deal, and that's true of the DNC, and it's true of the NSA, and it's true of a bunch of other things. Hussein is FBI, Supreme Court, DOJ, federal government simply trusts CS to report on the data breach. Well, there's no direct investigation. So Hussein block, Hussein control, Hussein state secrets, national security articles 1 through 9 buried, Iwan attached. You know, the Iwan thing has been wide open for a while, America for sale. Well, that's been true since at least the Clinton administration, and probably before that with H.W. Bush. We know that Clinton transferred huge amounts of stuff to China. We know that the Russian stuff has been passed on. And since you want to have some direct information on it, I'm going to give you a download of my own, which has to do with the diaries of Major Jordan, which will show you that this was ongoing in the Franklin Delano Roosevelt administration. So developing these authoritarian governments that are transnational, like the USSR, has been ongoing for for 70 years and longer. So cheating Obama, yeah, he's cheating all right, and he was downloading stuff as well. Trust the plan in April showers, which is, are we going to get drops, or is things going to come out in the rain, or is the rain going to cleanse and clean what has been the thorns and bushes and crap that have been there? It's symbolic. So there's a repeat of the above. Troops to the border. There was discussion today that, and I take a look at some of the news, that Trump is making a response to this. The clown black ops, this is clown black ops, they're using this to pay. It may be Soros money as well. It could be the Muslim Brotherhood. It can be the MS-13. It could be a lot of things. Troops to the border, what does what? Well, it does lots of things. It blocks that whole process, and I guess Mexico is now starting to break down and tear into the groups that are coming up there and to turn some of them away. And then Q talks about sex traffic, children, drugs, guns, Russia, Chinese pass-through, intel roadblock, names. So all of those things are going on, the MS-13 illegals, etc. And then it says the name we won't say, AZ roadblock. Well, that's my favorite deal, Jock Strap McStain, right? So, and Jeff Flake. The two worst senators are both in Arizona and from Arizona, and I thought with the train ride and stuff that Flake may have been disabled, but apparently that's still not the case. And of course, how McCain, McStain, nasty boy, puff cheek boy that has off and on different days has ankle problems and foot problems and chemistry problems and brain problems, and it flips back and forth. is in the dirty, dark side of this thing and has been all along. And so they're basically saying that that's a roadblock too. Big money terminate. Well, what they're intimating here, and I think everybody knows this, the CIA has been funding a lot of this stuff and has been doing it with gun running, drug running, sex trafficking, whatever it is that makes money. They took over the old mafia and they made it their own. And they made it their own so well that they get the American government, the American military, secret operations, the mafia, the dark side, and the rest of these guys all to do their bidding. And it serves the purpose of the bunch that includes Soros and everybody up above from there. So what Q says is the fight for the wall is so much more, and that's exactly the case. It's not about a couple 100,000 immigrants. We could fix that with green cards. You know, the Canadians have green cards that they require the employer to get to certify that the employer is taking responsibility, to certify that the people are going to be returned, to provide them with proper wages, with withholding, with health care and the rest of that stuff, and to return them. And, you know, that would go a long way. But, of course, that means that the Republicans don't get their cheap labor and the Democrats don't get their illegal votes. And so what we've had till now is that nobody wants to do anything because everybody's getting a payoff around the backside. And that fits with all the rest of this, but it's just a tiny, tiny piece. So are the Republicans and Democrats getting shoveled money in the background as part of Congress to stay out of doing anything positive? Yes, I think so. And answer me this. Why is it that a senator from Montana that I might know well will not stand up about the immigration stuff? Montana doesn't have an immigration problem. Minnesota doesn't have a huge immigration problem. The Dakotas don't have an immigration problem. Why is it that those states that don't have a serious immigration problem don't have statesmen that can serve as the neutral force in this and actually come up with a positive result? Why is that? Well, there are some obvious answers. But there are no good answers. That's the deal. So, you know, 50 years ago, 70 years ago, when we had a United States Senator from Montana, Mike Mansfield, he was working quietly to stop the Vietnam War, even though he didn't. I don't think he realized how big LBJ was getting played into it. Maybe he did. But statesmanship was an opportunity and a place for a person that didn't have his life on the line as it relates to his own constituency. Now we have none of that. So I'm off on a tangent, but it's an important tangent because it helps us to look at how this is all working and why it's not working at all now. So the CIA self-funds black ops with trafficking, drugs, sex, guns, and intel, and they have the MS-13 as enforcers. And they pay billions of dollars to the corrupt bunch like Jockstrap and the bunch and others, all around it, all across the border. It's nothing new. 1010 is money, power, control. Well, there you have it. And it's all part of the deal. And we think of the, you know, we want to think of the SES as a problem. Well, no, it's not all the problem. We want to think of the CIA as the problem. Well, no, it's not all of the problem. We want to think of the NSA or the FBI or Congress. We want to think of the executive branch. We want to think of military corruption. We want to look at the Pentagon and all the money that's got spent, the HUD and the rest of that. Well, no, those are not the core of the problem. They're all big problems, but they're not the core of the problem. The core of the problem is where the big money is and where it's pushing money out into all of these other places, and that's with our trillionaire bankers. So all the rest of this stuff is important, but we've got to keep in perspective that there is this inflow, outflow, and a lot of these other operations. You know, people say, well, gee, why are they doing drugs if they could do sex trafficking or something else? Well, they're doing it all. And every morning they wake up and say, gosh, we could do something more. We could be more corrupt than we are now and make more money and enslave more people. So it goes on. People are simply in the way, and that's the deal. You know, you get guys like Kissinger and Prince Philip that say, you know, we're just useless eaters, and Philip wants to come back as a virus. so that he can kill off as many people as possible. The wars served multiple purposes. They killed World War II killed, 200 million people or something like that. And in the meantime, everybody was totally destroyed. All the money systems were turned upside down. We got a chance to reorganize the entire government. We got to play with national borders. We got to take over and create iron curtains for some, and alliances, and the UK going into the euro and the rest of that stuff for the rest of it. So it was all part of the plan, and they made money and gained power and gained control and influence at every part of it. Slaves, sheep, pawns, mass extinction events. World War II was a mass extinction event, okay? And they're planning others. That's why the North Korea thing, that's why the why notice, at least it is used as an op for that. That's why all the fear, that's why the incredible migration, that's why the tens of millions of people displaced in the Middle East. It's all part of a giant game. Gun control, well, they've got it just about everywhere now. And we're one of the few holdouts, and we're the only big enough holdout of people that could stop what's going on. So, wars, fake, top-happy, back-end deal. Well, it works at every end of this thing, and it worked that way even in World War II. We tend to think it's a straight-up deal, but they were playing backwater games and dividing the world up into 4 big slices even as early as World War II, and that was part of the deal. So, top-happy, the guys at the top get all the stuff. They get all the benefits, they get the cash, they trade it off with each other, they worked both sides of the deal, and then they divided up the spoils after they got done. Election rigging control, we got Soros and the bunch in it, and it's been there since at least 2000 that we know we can prove with exit polling and comparing the rest of it. Your voice does not matter. Pharma Class D, and I looked at a couple things on that having to do with poisons or things inappropriate for infants, and also in so-called inert additives, which are not inert at all. Things like aluminum and some of the rest of this, formaldehyde, mercury, that directly go into the bloodstream and that stay, that don't get out, heavy metals and that kind of thing. You've got tobacco, vaccines, opioids, the ultimate win, death and money. And I have people that still say, look, this thing is at a place where how can they possibly want to kill tens of millions of people? They make more money that way. Why would they crash everything? Because they lose money in the market and the rest of that. Well, what you don't recognize is it's not about a balance sheet or a bottom line. It's about a pie chart. And the pie chart is this. Every time the pie shrinks, the people that own the big chunk of it, when it starts to expand, own a bigger and bigger and bigger piece of it. So the result of it is that it's not about what my bottom line is. Am I worth 10 billion or 10 trillion or 9 trillion? Do I lose money if I crash the market? That's not it. The question is, do I own 50, 60, 80% when it comes back down, when it comes back through? Do I get rid of my competition? Does the mercantile system serve the 3 or 4 or 5 people that are players in any given industry, and can they work together to get rid of everybody else and to get rid of all the little people? Every time the stock market crashes, the little people lose everything. The big guys pick up the pieces, and they end up with a bigger share of what's there. And we can prove that because the value, the equity of the middle class has been going down for 40 years straight. And so you wonder why it is that it's harder and harder for people to get into the middle class and stay there. Well, it's being polarized. We're a third world country. So here we are, the Fed, the Rothschild conspiracy, the UK and Germany, and 5 days with a kill shot. Now, does that really mean 5 days? Come on, at least it's not 5. It's 5 days. And I don't know whether there's an event that comes up that comes around that, but the choice is yours. Well, I'm hoping that the choice has already been made, but certainly we're going to speak up, and that's part of what we're doing here. Revelations, is that the religious revelations, and it's possible, I'm not going to worry about that. Some people say that's all it can be or that it can't be, but it is revelatory to us. That's the deal. Do we expose the process? Does this 20-80 thing become 80-20 and we all become aware of it? And in doing so, step forward and are empowered by the process. That's the real critical fact. So enough is enough. And I'm thinking that the tone of this, and I hope, I embrace that the tone of this is different, that there's a sense of angry frustration about where we are and the fact that we don't just simply bubble along and capitulate. So, all right, the 10-11 is North Korea diffused, and it's in the current tense, present tense, pay attention, but that appears to be the process. And then it goes on to say Russia testing missiles, Russia new threat. Coincidence? No, it's not, but it's not. I don't believe it's a threat. They must maintain threat to retain power and influence. Are you awake? Yeah, I think we are. I listened to an hour-and-a-half interview of Putin the other day and looked at the translations of it. And it was, I came away from it. The guy's obviously, he's intel, he's very smart, he's shrewd, he was careful with his answers, but he also made pretty clear what his motivations were. And if there was anything in what he said that was to be believed, it is that he is not a threat to us. And I think that's fairly clear. And I think he also knows, and he said so, that it would be a total destruction for everybody. So at the bottom of this, at the next process, number 12, there is this combination of our thoughts and prayers are with the 4 U.S. Marines from the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing who lost their lives in yesterday's Southern California helicopter crash. We pray for the families and our great Marine Corps. Their sacrifice will never be forgotten. And that is an exact quote of a Trump tweet that went on today as well. So it's nice to see it matched up. And, for all of us, our thanks to the Marines. So 1013, Twitter, clowns, Operation Q. T2810RC. There were a whole bunch of people that looked at that. There were some that looked at it that said that it could be a recording device and it could be matched up to the whole Epstein thing. It doesn't match that, and I couldn't find what it did. False drops. There's stuff going on. There's bot pushing. I had problem even on getting onto Q because my pointer, my mouse and stuff would not work. It would basically crash sideways. I had to sneak onto it. So is that of any consequence? Well, who knows, but we all tend to think of it that way. Future conspiracy pushed to norms, and that, what I said earlier today is there are going to be all kinds of drops. There are going to be false flags. There are going to be shootings, there are going to be mass stuff, there's going to be MK Ultra stuff. It's all there to try to distract. And one of the things that I responded to today, and I responded with a little frustration, at least of my own, is that there are people that are being red-pilled, that are being awakened, that get onto my side and get onto others, and they say, well, no, it's not that, it's this. Well, the important part about it is I see it, and I want us all to pay attention, is that it is, are we awake? Do we know that this is a false flag? Does it matter which parent was which, whether the kid was at school or not? Do they have to change their routines? We know that's going to happen, right? Take a look at Mandalay Bay. They had to stuff it in a box and get everybody to shut up about it because they couldn't pull the pieces together. And so future conspiracy to push the norms, bad mixed with good. And we see that, and frankly, let me tell you, I see it with the AIM folks. They put stuff in that's good that everybody knows. They come up with a little bit of stuff that's different, and then they say, oh no, this all means that. And where they turn right, where, as Farmer Jones points out with Animal House, they're marching down the street and then they turn left and they go into the alley or into a wall. That's what happens, and we have to watch to be careful that truth as we march along, falsehood as it goes sideways is not what we're talking about. We're talking about paying attention. So, and that's a hard part about discernment, is to know where it isn't true. So it says taint, they're scared. And, you know, I hope they are, but we've been saying this for quite some time. I want them so scared that they're in their bunkers and we ferret them out with kaboom. Then I want a real boom, you know. All right, so 1014 is Zuckerberg to step down as chairman out of the U.S. At Jack, good luck. We keep going back to at Jack. And so is at Jack going to follow him? Is at Jack at risk? Is at Jack the next guy up? You know, all of those things are good. Any one of those would be good. Which is the answer? Does it matter, right? We're paying attention to Zuckerberg. We're going to watch him maybe leave. And if, in fact, that happens, then at Jack's the next guy. He's the guy standing on top of the pedestal that has to jump. And we get to watch where he jumps. Good luck, Q. So it was good luck perhaps to at Jack, because that's his message. But it's also good luck for us, right? So anyway, if you like it, I've been kind of noisy today. I've been quiet other days. I've got a couple projects I'm working hard on, trying to get lined out. One of them has to do with looking at the Jordan's diaries, because it is an incredibly important thing that takes us clear back to World War II. And it shows us how stuff was being shuttled back and forth to our enemies, our counterparts, our potential enemies, and it was done secretly, and it was done at the highest levels of government 70 odd years ago. So this, you think this is new? You know, one of the things Q says is past proves future, or future proves past, or whatever. Well, it's all linked together, and once you start to pay attention to what was happening in 1942 or 3 or 4, you can take a look at what's going on now and say they just got a lot more sophisticated, but they haven't gone away. So if you like it, thumbs up. I have a huge thing. I'm going to get that, and it's going to happen this week. Boom. Boom, I'm going to have a big thing that goes this week, and it's going to line up with all the stuff that Q has been doing this last day or so. I'm surprised to see, and I am delighted to see. So, you know, I want a whole bunch of us to frog phalanx. That's my new word for a frog group. It's a phalanx. It's a Greek spear-carrying, shield-carrying, mounted line of people that don't let anything get through, and we scour the country and we clean it as we go. And I want to see millions of us do it. And I don't care whether you call yourselves the crew of the kangaroos, it doesn't matter. But whatever we do, let's get it. So if you like it, thumbs up, you know, subscribe if you will, and let's move on. Thanks so much, and congratulations on your new graduation, right? All right, thanks.